And Jared and Jacob from Marble City Pharmacy joins us this morning. Gentlemen, good morning to you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good to have you with us, and Happy New Year. We hadn't talked since the New Year, I don't guess, so Happy New Year to you.
That's correct, to you too.
Off to a good start.
Hey, we're talking this morning, what's on the shelf? So I'll pose the question, what's on the shelf?
What's on the shelf?
Lots of stuff.
There's a lot of stuff on the shelf. This is our second segment, I think, of what's on the shelf. I hope the first one was beneficial, and I think it will be today. Today we're going to talk about a topic that, not exactly what you talk about at the dinner table, but it's something that that we all have to deal with from time to time, and that is constipation.
Exactly, define constipation.
What is constipation? Let's see, people are eating breakfast at this point, so we'll do the best we can. But it's okay. It is not passing stool enough, not going to the bathroom enough. A technical definition is less than 3 times a week. You don't have to remember that, but what we do want to emphasize is you do not have to go to the bathroom every day to be considered normal. That used to be an old school train of thought. If I'm not going every day, something's wrong. I need to take something. That's not correct. It's basically less than every other day. If you're going every other day, you're perfectly fine. You're not constipated. But constipation then is not passing stool enough, not going to the bathroom often enough, but that does not mean every single day.
Mm-hmm. Now, does this affect the older audience more likely, or
it does? It does. It's not just older people, though. There are all kinds of. First of all, you got young kids. For any of you, if you're older, if you remember when your kids were little, you certainly dealt with constipation in their infant years. People who are pregnant are much more likely to be constipated. And then as you get older, and there's several factors there, most elderly people drink less water than they should. Most of them get less physical activity than they should. And then your body starts to slow down. And there are a bunch of other things, which will probably be your next question, but there are a bunch of other things that can cause constipation as well.
I want to talk about that a little bit more this morning. First of all, let's talk about other than the apparent not able to use a bathroom regularly, are there some causes that can further cause problems from constipation?
Absolutely. And some of them are really simple things we can control, and some of them are not. Mm-hmm. First of all, not getting enough fiber in your diet, which is, we can all say that, but then the question is, where do I get fiber?
What does that mean?
Fruits, vegetables, whole grains. Not a lot of fiber in a Big Mac. Just throwing that out there. Fruits, vegetables, whole grains. So diet. Second, and Jared already mentioned this, is amount of water. We need to drink a lot of water to keep our colon function the way we need to. So if you're having trouble, drink more water. He mentioned this one, lack of physical activity. The less we move around, the less our innards, for lack of a better term, move around too and get things stirred up. Mm-hmm. We got to do that. Aging is a big cause. Pregnancy is a big cause. I'm missing 2 or 3 obvious ones. Medications. I'm a pharmacist. I think that popped in my mind first. Sorry about that. Certain medications, pain medicines, certain older antidepressants cause constipation, and lots of it. Mm-hmm. That's probably, we can probably stop there. That's the probably 6 major ones that we can go through this morning.
Yeah, wow. We're talking with Jared and Jacob from Marble City Pharmacy. What's on the shelf? The second installment of this, and we're talking constipation this morning. And a lot of you watching this morning may have dealt with this. If you haven't, you probably will at some point in life. And there are different options, I guess, to treat constipation. Let's talk about that.
If you guys have been to the shelf, you know that the shelf is full of options for constipation. Quite frankly, it can be pretty confusing. And there are a bunch of different ways that we could look at those medications. We could break them down based on how they work or their chemical families, something like that. They'll probably be way too difficult to understand. I think the best thing for our viewers is to look at these medicines based on how quickly they work, because that's a really practical way. Some people need to go now, and some people just need to be more regular overall. So I think as we're talking through them, we can basically look at how quickly these medications work.
Yeah, and different medications for different groups of people.
That's correct. So as we go this morning, when we get towards the end, we'll talk about, is this safe for elderly? Is this safe for infants and children? Is this safe for pregnancy? All these categories we've already mentioned, they may be different than if I'm, otherwise healthy, 35, 40-year-old versus if I'm, pregnant, elderly, or an infant. So there's options as we go forward with that too.
as we discussed this morning, whoever wrote this
Is the handwriting pretty bad?
His penmanship is kind of like mine, and so I'm just going to defer on some of this morning. You guys take it and run with it.
I've been told my writing's not that good. Okay,
You've been told correctly.
Let's talk about this. One of the things we wanted to bring up was what if I need to go now? Quite frankly, we get these questions in the pharmacy all the time. And when you're talking about somebody who hasn't had a bowel movement in 3, 4, 5 days, for whatever the reason is, those are people that are ready to go now. And I understand that. I would be in that situation myself. First, you start with the medications that are relatively unpleasant, that nobody wants to use. These are your suppositories and your enemas, right? There are multiple kinds of suppositories. There are, for example, Dulcolax. You've all heard of that. There are glycerin suppositories, which are safe all the way down to little kids' age. And then you have your enemas. You got they're both made by a company called Fleets, and then you got the store brands, but you got your Fleets enema that's a saline laxative, Fleets enema that's a mineral oil laxative. We can, of course, help you sort through all these options. But nobody really wants to deal with enemas and suppositories, right? So
I wonder why.
Go ahead and eat your eggs.
Let's
breakfast.
Let's don't go there. Beyond that, your medications that work the quickest are really your magnesium products. And we used to call this one product drugstore lemonade. The real name for that is magnesium citrate. But it comes in the clear bottle. There's also a cherry flavor. It's something where you could drink half the bottle or even the whole bottle to basically clear yourself out. You're looking at 3 to 6 hours on those type medications. Milk of Magnesia is another one in 3 to 6 hour range. And I'll let Jake talk about some of the ones that take a lot longer to work.
Okay.
Yeah, and so beyond those, we move into things that would be considered as stimulant laxatives, the things that, now just as a disclaimer on these are the ones that cause the most side effects in terms of, hey, when I take a laxative, my stomach cramps real bad, or it hurts, or I bloat. Okay, that's what we're about to start talking about. So these are, your Dulcolax, your Senokot. Those are probably two most common names people are familiar with.
All this is over-the-counter medication,
Every bit
right?
of this.
Okay.
Every bit of this.
Yeah, we should be clear about that. Everything we're talking about.
Yeah, every bit of this. And so, you come and you get these. These are stimulants. They make you go. They're very effective. However, they're an 8 to 12 hour product. So basically, they even say on their box, overnight laxative. If you take it at night, you can have a BM the next day. And so that's the concept on those. They're 8 to 12 hours. They're overnight style laxatives. And they're very effective, but again, there are side effects with those. And so if possible, sometimes I don't always go straight to those for recommendations. And then we can move even further out. There are things that take longer than that even, that are more geared toward people who don't need to go now as much as, I'm not regular. I don't get enough exercise. I don't eat right. I need some help just moving forward. Or I take medicines that I can't come off of that cause this problem chronically. And so then you've got things that are like Miralax. Miralax is a great drug. Miralax will help you go. It is a laxative, but it is not a stimulant. It's safe for pretty much everybody out there. And it's not going to make you go in, 2 hours. It's not going to do, but it is going to help you, and it takes a little longer. It's not a 1 hour, 2 hour product, but it's extremely safe. It's extremely effective. Then you've got things that are just fiber. Metamucil, Citracel, those sort of things. And I mean, we're talking, 24, 72 hours on those kind of things. It's not even a today thing. It's a tomorrow, the next day kind of thing. So fiber powders, fiber capsules, fiber tablets, they come a lot of different ways. Wafers come a lot of different ways, but those are long term. And then something that's not even a stool softener that I recommend probably as much or more than anything we've talked about. It's not a laxative, excuse me. Something I recommend more than anything we've talked about is stool softeners. Colace, Docusate, they're over the counter. And they're cheap, they're effective, they're extremely safe. And they just simply soften the stool that's there. If you're getting impacted, if you're chronically having these problems, it gets hard to pass, it gets too large. Stool softeners will help you greatly, because if you don't, when you do finally go and the stool is either too hard or too large, you can have, enjoy your eggs with this one. You can have tears, anal fissures, lots of pain, lots of problems when you do pass. And so stool softener is an extremely important part of our over-the-counter arsenal. I recommend a lot of those.
We talk about, a little tongue-in-cheek and a little laughter this morning, but this can be, especially with chronic constipation, can really lead to problems.
Oh, it's a problem. I mean, you have stomach aches that go along with that. You guys that have had chronic constipation know what we're talking about. It's a battle. You know, one of the things we didn't mention earlier is there are some health conditions that can cause chronic constipation. One of them is irritable bowel syndrome. And you got some irritable bowel syndrome that has a lot of diarrhea. You got some irritable bowel syndrome that's mainly constipation. Then you got some irritable bowel syndrome that kind of goes back and forth between the two. Those kind of people have a very difficult time. And quite frankly, to me, it was a game changer when Miralax came from prescription only to over the counter. To me, it is the go-to drug because, as Jacob said, it's safe for most ages. When you see somebody who's chronically constipated, Miralax, to me, its availability over the counter has really changed things.
Mm-hmm. We're talking with Jared and Jacob from Marble City Pharmacy. What's on the Shelf, our second installment of this particular topic, and we're talking constipation this morning. And you know, you mentioned early on about young children and pregnant mothers and people who are up in years. Are there different type medications for these individuals?
There are. Well, you know, the same medications are available, but which ones do we need to think about or avoid? And so the three special populations we always consider, you know, old, young, and pregnant. Those are your three. You always got to put a separate category on.
Instead of old?
What's that?
Older instead of old.
Older.
Yeah, we don't want to name any names.
That's right.
But older.
Older than others. You know, those people, we have to be careful with our magnesium products sometimes because of kidney function. So your liquids, milk of magnesia, magnesium citrate, sometimes you got to be a little careful with those. Otherwise, you know, they're pretty much fair game to take whatever. Although, huge caution, stimulant laxatives, Dulcolax, Senokot. If you take them all the time, you become dependent on them, and your system doesn't work by itself anymore.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so again, these are not everyday products. You know, and it's be honest, it's this generation that thinks you have to go every day or you're not healthy. And if I'm not going every day, I've got to go grab a Dulcolax and take it every day, every day, so that I can go the next day. That's not healthy. That's not the answer. And so that's just a word of warning. It's very common. It's something we have to answer quite frequently in the store, which is why I bring it up here, because I know the information is out there. So be careful with your stimulant laxatives in this population, but otherwise they can pretty much take whatever they need to take safely. Pregnant ladies, you know, again, you can always take Miralax, and you can always take stool softener. So those two we go to a lot, Miralax and Docusate or Colace for stool softening in pregnant ladies. Children, you know, depending on age, safest answer a lot of times is a glycerin suppository because it's not really medicine. It just, you know, goes in the area of interest, and you know, it dissolves and softens what's there, and out it comes. Extremely safe for children. I mean, they come in, you know, marked as low as 2, and doctors have recommended for much less than 2 years old before, you know, cutting them into smaller pieces. So, you know, again, Miralax is another good option in children. It's a great option in children. So again, there are options if you want to come see us, regardless of age, medical conditions, medicines you take, whatever boat you fall in, there are safe and healthy options, and there are unsafe options and unhealthy options. So, you know, please talk to us. We can help you with that.
I'm sure that people watching may be a little hesitant to, you know, discuss constipation, even with their local pharmacist. But it's awfully important, as you say, before you take any medication. Let's talk and make sure we get you the right medication.
Yeah, that's extremely important. You know, it's funny the differences in personalities and who's willing to discuss what with their pharmacist. As you said, some people don't want to discuss anything that's of a private nature, and some people want to tell you way more than you probably ever needed to know, right? But you know, honestly, the people that give us the most information, that's how we can give them the best answer. And so we want you to be honest with us. If you come to us and you say, and you think to yourself, oh, maybe I shouldn't say that, that's kind of embarrassing, they may have never heard that. Trust me, we've heard it. Probably heard it today, okay? So it's okay. And those things, obviously, those conversations remain confidential between you and us. And that's not just constipation, that's just an overarching point. You know, you need to feel free to discuss that with your pharmacist, and I'll just give a pitch right here. You got a pharmacist that you don't feel comfortable talking to, you know what to do. You need to come find us.
All right. Jacob, final thoughts this morning.
Final thoughts this morning. He said this already, but just to reiterate, unless you walk in the door at 8:30 when we unlock it, you will not be the first person today to ask me about constipation or tell me all about your bowel movements. And that's something we do all day, every day, because it's part of the job. We don't see it as weird, and 5 minutes later, hey, you know what that person told me? I don't even remember, because it's all day, every day. It's very important to what we do, and colon health is very important to your health. So it is something that needs to be discussed. So please, have no reservations about talking to us.
All right. Thank you both for coming this morning.
Thanks a lot.
Jared and Jacob with Help Monday, every second Monday of the month here on Daybreak Live. More coming up right after this.